do this computer quit here. All right, recording. Start now. Today on the podcast, we have Ronny Sage. He's the founder and CEO of Shopping Gives, which enables retailers to donate a percentage of each purchase to a nonprofit that the customer selects during checkout. Please welcome Ronny Sage.
Hey, John, thanks so much for having me.
Good to have you here as well. Why don't you just give us, Jesus, fucked up already. Great to have you here.
We can start again.
I'm just going to start with why don't you, because I'm going to edit this myself.
No, yeah, totally.
Good to have you here, Ronny. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So Ronny Sage, founder and CEO at Shopping Gives, based here out of Chicago native. We are a B2B social impact commerce platform. And that means that we enable end-to-end donation management and turnkey giving for retailers and merchants and digitally native brands and D2C brands and anybody who wants to give back and create an authentic relationship with their customer throughout their customer journey. We enable that turnkey for them.
That's awesome. How did you get into this particular niche? I'll call it a niche. I mean, obviously there's a lot involved here with app development and things like that, which we can get into later, but how did you wind up getting into the giving part of it? Where did that come into your life?
Sure. Interesting. So I have been a digital marketer for the last 12 years. I actually studied music in college and studied classical guitar in early days and then production and then did absolutely nothing with it. I got into, so it's a whole separate conversation there, but I got into publishing for the affiliate space. I was at Coupon Cabin early days, learned the affiliate marketing side of things. Then I was at Raise.com. I was one of the early employees and learned loyalty and incentive and gift cards and built out their affiliate and direct gift carding platform with retailers. So had affiliate and loyalty and incentive space, and then went to the education space where I built out a learning resource platform for educators to understand what they were looking for and driving personalized content to them, and then recommending them secondary education. And throughout that process was exposed to the need for fundraising for educators and left that and went to brand work. I was at an agency called Idea Booth where I managed their digital P&L and was exposed to the change in consumer behavior. This was early days of GoFundMe, early days of Amazon Smile had just come out. This was early 2014-ish. And I had an idea to kind of take affiliate and make it go back to the nonprofit and more of a fundraising platform. So initially when we launched Shopping Gives, so I'm going to take a step back. I'm jumping ahead here, but went to another agency called Rise Interactive, where I led their digital IR 500 retail sales and digital strategy, where I bootstrapped Shopping Gives. And that initial idea was we're going to build a marketplace, have 750 retailers that we had on board and give back between 50 to 80% of our affiliate commissions to the nonprofit. Great in theory. Then in execution, customer acquisition cost, getting nonprofits to activate, that was a huge challenge. And so necessity to innovate, saw a massive opportunity to change in consumer behavior. So this thesis that consumers wanted impact, understanding that this consumer change of, we call them generation impact. So that is the millennial and Gen Z, $743 billion in buying power, 136 million in, makeup of size, that this consumer wanted impact and they wanted value alignment throughout their relationship with the retailer. So some fun facts, 91% of millennials will switch to a brand associated with a cause. 70% will spend more if it's giving back to a cause they care about. 88% will be more loyal to a brand who gives back to a cause that they care about. So with these big numbers from big research companies, McKinsey, Cones, all these companies, we had a thesis around this. And so how do we make impact frictionless, understanding that consumers no longer wanted to have a destination to go to before they check out. They want, their experience to be frictionless and seamless. And so you look at the Afterpays, the Klarnas, the Sezzles, Shop Runners, these are all integrated frictionless experiences. And so we looked at it and said, there's an opportunity to create frictionless impact and that the retailers are actually looking to own that relationship and want to own that customer journey, and they want to understand who their customer cares about. And the number one priority for all retailers, of course, and I use retailers as the blanket statement, so whether you're digitally native or direct to consumer or traditional or whatever, whatever vertical you land in, is that there is a, no bottom line, no top line, there's no impact, there's no opportunity to create impact. And that cost consumer growth and commercial outcomes are priority. And we understand that as a business, and that, you know, lifetime value being that lagging indicator of enabling, more optimal customer acquisition cost, and then ultimately a higher lifetime value. And those are the key metrics here. How do we align giving back to bottom line? And how do we make it a tangible conversation for a digital marketer to say it makes sense? Of course, we want the altruistic value of giving back. We want to create positive impact. But then how do we measure that effectiveness in our business? Because if we're not driving at the end of the day, bottom line, there's no room to create impact. And you see this change. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, you actually hit on a lot of great points that I want to come back to. And the one big thing that you said there was the millennial Gen Z, their pockets. We follow a lot of stories that we see. There is definitely a sea change in that demographic, and I think you've kind of hit on a thing there. And also, what you've done, and I'll give you kudos here, is that you've kind of made this giving part almost frictionless to not only the person who wants to give, the customer on the end, but also your customer, in that they can participate in some sort of giving without having to, upset their whole order process.
Yeah.
So that'll take me to my next question here. Why don't you tell us how the app works? Tell us
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Like, we got the top line of what you're doing, but why don't you tell us exactly how it works for, if a merchant wants to, put this on their store, how does this work? And
Yeah.
take you through that.
So John, I would love to actually start with the challenges of why we create, what we're solving for. And I think that a lot of retailers don't understand the complexities of what is cause marketing. And cause marketing is the idea that when somebody is buying something, a percentage of that sale is being donated to a nonprofit. And there's a lot of actual regulation that goes into this. So there's what's called co-commercial venture, commercial co-venture, solicitation agreements, bonds across the states. Every state has different regulation, and it's for the consumer protection. And so the FTC regulates that transparency to the end customer. And so if you look historically, you see these big retailers giving back to these big nonprofits, and most of the time you as a consumer are being asked to spend more. We believe that that's backwards in a paradigm, that you as a consumer are already choosing to spend at the retailer, and that they shouldn't be asking you to spend more of your own money. They should actually be saying, we're going to give on your behalf. And in that return, we're going to build loyalty. And then if you look at that, it's these big retailers to these big nonprofits. And that's because of the cost implications. There's these contracts, there's these minimums, and then the inability to measure that back to your bottom line. So we said, how do we democratize social impact for all parties involved? Not the big guys, enabling the small guys, the entrepreneur, the Johns of the world who want to come on and just start their shop tomorrow, but also want to create an impact, to the scaling massive digitally native brands of the world.
But also be able to pick their causes, because that one thing you said there, when you have a big brand who's making a donation to another big cause, maybe the consumer, that's a disconnect for them, because they're
Absolutely.
going, well, that's not who I want. That's not who
Exactly.
I'm
So it's a very personal experience. So we said, across that chain of impact, it's how do we democratize it so anybody can give back? How do we enable them to give back to any nonprofit of any size? So your local PTA to your national or international big nonprofits, as long as they're a 501c3 registered nonprofit with IRS and in good standing, through our system you could donate to them. And then finally is incorporating your customer into that journey. And our North Star product is that, with our app, it's enabling your customer to opt in and select and search a cause of their choice. So you as the retailer, so now this is what we do. We have our program, Shopping Gives is our company, and then we have our app on Shopify. And then this also works across any other CMS called Change Commerce. And that integrates frictionlessly throughout the customer journey. So our app embeds on the PDP page, and that's customized to look and feel like your website, looks native to the experience. You could either set what is called a default cause. So you can say, hey, we're giving back the COVID-19 response fund. And that will be preset for the retailer and for the consumer so that they don't have to opt in. So if you go to kennethcole.com today, that's who they're supporting. It's preset. You can't even update it. You can't choose a different cause. They're saying this is who we're committed to right now. We have other partners, for example, Darby Scott, they're giving back to COVID, various causes, and you could show, they've selected 6 causes that the customer can choose from, but they also enable the customer to search. So if the customer wants to select one of their featured causes, what we see is that 60% of consumers will support a featured cause, and the other 40% are going to search for their cause of choice, and they could search through this pop-up box. And that's
Interesting. I was going to get to that later about the different types of causes. So you're saying though that if a merchant has this installed, the default might be, right now COVID, but can they, are they able to toggle, like can a merchant say, I want to support COVID, but also 2
Yep.
others, or is it?
Up to, yep, exactly. So they could say, we're going to default. It's basically, you could get as creative as you want with how you want to give with our program. We have out of the box settings, but you could get and say, hey, we want to give back default Feeding America, but we're going to give 5 other options for the customer to choose from. And we're also going to have our search box turned on so they could search for their nonprofit of choice if they want, or you could turn your search bar off, or you could set different causes, or you could set what's called multipliers to say during certain times of the month, breast cancer awareness month, we're going to give 5x back to these breast cancer causes. There's ability, I'm going to kind of go down a rabbit hole here, but and I might be jumping ahead, but as we think about this program, it's about not only creating impact, but how do you leverage impact throughout your marketing funnel? So when you think about cross-channel, being able to identify that once that John makes a purchase on, let's say Cobelli or Highline Wellness, some of our partners I'll highlight here, and you support, John, who do you support? I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you have any nonprofits?
I'm actually personally involved with foster children, so I do that type of work there.
So let's say there's Foster Children of America as a nonprofit.
Okay.
You support that nonprofit and select it. Now that's going to live on your customer profile for that specific store. Now that store now is able to store that and utilize that nonprofit because it's first party data for them. And they can now communicate with you on dormant customer emails or, anywhere in your email, in that email activation, future communication, they could do a one-to-one personalized message saying, John, we know that you supported Foster Kids of America on this last purchase. We're going to donate to them again and make it personalized to you. Or they could take a more macro approach and say, we know that customers who support environment spend 20% more. So when we're flighting media on Instagram, we want to be more efficient with our media budgets, and we're going to shift budgets to our best performing audience. Or they could do personalized campaigns and say our red products are going to be given to American Heart Association, and add a query parameter so that it auto sets when you're flighting towards Feeding American Heart Association, and have that audience in there. Now the content's red content, the audience is about American Heart Association. And when they get to the website, it's preset to American Heart Association. You could do that tactic with influencers. You could do that across the board. It's about making it personal and optimizing your bottom line, and in the process, creating impact.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So basically you're saying, and I guess your data would back this up in that you have someone that says, okay, let's use Heart Association or something simple like that. You can contact that customer, and that customer is not going to be, they're not going to look negatively on that type of communication because it's a different type of communication. It's not a hard sell. It's like, here's the Heart Association. You've actually given money to this cause. This is something that you believe in. And conversely, you can also switch your marketing dollars towards that type of customer because that creates some sort of profile.
Exactly.
Does Shopping Gives provide that kind of data back to the merchant?
Absolutely. So we are rich in data, and if you have our app or if you are using any of our other integrations, you get a dashboard and it shows you AOV with or without donations. It shows you activation rate if you don't have a default set of how many customers are opting in. It shows you AOV by nonprofit. We have AOV by affinity or by category of a nonprofit. You have some advanced reporting that we're going to be releasing here shortly is our lifetime value report. So once a customer opts in, how their lifetime value increases. So we've seen this in regression analysis with some of our partners that we've ran in through integrations with analytics, that because we could do event tagging and it shows into your analytics for attribution to say people from these different channels, time on site when they opt into a cause, time on site when they're a donor, how where in the funnel they interact with a cause. We actually have seen an 18% lift in lifetime value when a customer becomes a donor. So now you've you basically have created a new segment that is your donor, which becomes your best customer.
That's great. That's
And then we have
really
a
great.
fun metric that we've actually trademarked called return on donation spend. So it's the same ROAS concept of every $1 spent is $5 return, let's say. We're able to show for every dollar donated, what's your fully loaded donation cost, what the return on that donation looks like from a bottom line perspective.
So that leads me to one question I wanted to ask you. If you have a merchant, and I really didn't look into the cost of this, but I imagine there's some merchants that are on the fence. What's the biggest selling point that you make to them besides the altruistic feel good part of it and the giving back? What's the one thing? I mean, it sounds like the average order spend rises when this thing is in place. Would that be something that you would use as a sales point?
Yeah, our whole position is that this drives build customer loyalty and trust, and the numbers are conversion rate. We've done multiple testing, and we consistently see an increased conversion rate and increased AOV as leading indicators, and ultimately lagging indicators are velocity of purchase, that donors come back more often, and lifetime value.
That's great. And I wanted to ask you one UI UX question. What is the percentage for, let's just say you have your checkout set to just a default one versus a checkout set up to a drop? Do people, because I know that people get analysis paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a better response with just a single cause, or are people more likely to use the search feature or a drop down of several choices?
Yeah. So what I can say is, when there is no default set, a healthy program has about a 40 to 45% opt-in rate, meaning that you are marketing it and educating your customer before they get to your PDP page. So from the homepage, eyebrows, marketing, there's a PDP page opportunity to opt in, and then there's a cart opportunity to opt in, and then a checkout opportunity to opt in. So across the entire funnel, it's presenting that. And that checkout and cart one is super important for two reasons. One is legality. From a compliance perspective, you need to show the donation amount in dollars, not percent. So you can't say 10% of proceeds is going to be donated. You need to say this dollar amount is being donated. And that needs to be the actual 100% of that dollar needs to go to the nonprofit.
Yeah, I
So
wanted to ask you about compliance issues. So that is one issue there where it has to be in solid dollar amounts. What are other issues? What are other compliance issues that a merchant might not know about that you guys handle?
the actual dollar going to the nonprofit, of course. So if you're saying $1, it needs to be $1. It can't be minus fees. So if it's 10% fees or net proceeds or COGS or whatever's going into that, it needs to be the dollar that you're presenting. You also need to present the dollar post purchase, which is something that our technology does. Is it shows on the thank you page a pop-up modal that confirms and thanks them and has the opportunity for the customer to share their impact. And then, or there's an email that gets into the transactional email that says, thank you for your purchase on this website. Here's how much was donated to this cause. Now, another piece on this that merchants would have a very hard time doing on their own is reconciliation. So if there's a return, not having that liability of donations over you. So it auto reconciles all returns out of the box. So if you have a return, you have a 30-day lock period, it will auto reconcile and say, no, get a credit for that donation. Don't pay that donation if the customers return that item.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And also, I mean, I'm sure you have, even if it's just a dollar or two, but you also send an email to the actual customer, because they want to report it on their taxes. I mean, is that something that happens, or is it so negligible, or how does that work?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So if a customer wants to report their donation on their taxes, how does that handle?
So it's actually the retailer who's receiving the tax benefit here.
Oh, so if I buy a $500 item and donate $20 to, Hearts of America or whatever, I don't get that tax benefit.
Well, you're not donating. It's the retailer setting a specific percentage or dollar amount
right. Okay.
to the nonprofit. So they're actually pledging a percentage. And through our technology, the retailer has control over every individual product and SKU. So they could say this product gives back 10%, this product gives back 5%, or this product gives back is excluded because of margin. So you have control as a retailer, and it's actually a tax deductible donation from the retailer. And they get the tax benefit.
Understood.
If understanding that normally, when you round up donations for any retailer, you are not receiving the tax benefit as the consumer. The retailer recognizes that as revenue and immediately writes it off as a donation.
Right. So what if the consumer wanted to kick in a few extra bucks? Is there an option for that?
We do have the option for that. We have add-on donations. So Darby Scott's a great example of this. DarbyScott.com, where our whole position is the retailer needs to pledge first and give a donation first, and then it's okay to ask the consumer to opt in and give in addition. But asking the consumer for more money before you've committed to that impact, we feel is backwards. They're
Yeah,
already
it is.
committing to make a purchase with you.
Understood. And I could see there are certain businesses where the altruism is a bit stronger and that feel good thing is stronger. And they would definitely say, well, I've spent 20, I'm just going to round it up to 25 and give my extra $5 to the cause. And you're able to handle that.
Yep.
That's really great. Um, you actually answered a lot of my questions here. On board.
Cranking.
Yeah, cranking. So how do you handle the onboarding when someone says, you know what, this sounds like it's something I want to do? How hard is it to get them on board, and how does that
Sure.
work?
So Shopify can get you live in less than an hour. Our goal time is 30 minutes from integrating our app. We have 3 partnership levels that really are focused on our Shopify partners. We have Impact Starter, which is free to start. It's really focused on you as a brand who, the entrepreneur who's looking to give back. They receive 20 free orders with donations per month. So no transaction fees on the first 20 orders per month. It's free to get started. Our support team will help you integrate, help you place the technology. You get it's focused on giving back. We have our Impact Plus, which is a fixed SaaS fee per month, and that locks in it so that there's no processing fees. It's a flat dollar amount annually, and you have the ability. You have advanced features, so like the add-on donations you'll get on that. You have more integration opportunities. So we're doing integrations with Yachtpost Swell right now. We're doing integrations with Klaviyo. We have some really great advanced features that we're rolling out, and then we have Impact Partner, which is for anybody who's off of Shopify or your Shopify Plus stores. And that gives you a dedicated account manager on our end, strategy, setup, support, customization, advanced reporting, really is focused on scaling and growing brands.
That's pretty awesome. How do you get customers? I mean, where is this basically just people looking in the Shopify app store, or what's your customer acquisition strategy?
Yeah. So, we've had a strong inbound. We've done very nominal outbound to date. We're a small 15-person team and fast, very quickly growing even under these crazy times. We've seen massive growth, and it was interesting in March. We always talk about as one of our core values, tomorrow, today. That's one of our values, and that means that we're building for the future, and that we're prepared for what's ahead, and that we're thinking, we're in the idea of Three Sigma of knowing the future. A Three Sigma team is the idea that they understand and anticipate the future, and it's what we have built, and the ability to support all these retailers who are looking to create impact for COVID has been incredible. That we had a 3x growth in March in supporting all these retailers. Which has been fantastic. We have a strong partnership channel. So we work really strongly with various solutions and agencies, and then we work with other technology providers. Of course, conferences used to be a fantastic opportunity to make FaceTime, but as we scale our organization and scale our team, we're going to be absolutely scaling our outbound and our sales, our education activity but a lot of content, a lot of webinars, podcasts, all that good stuff, just awareness phase. But right now I have a no outbound rule because of COVID. Nobody wants to get the cold call right now.
Yeah, no one wants the call. No one wants the in these unprecedented times email. I think everyone's pretty tired of that already.
Yep.
Marketing is going to be a pretty tricky thing in the next 60 to 90 days. So I'm going to step back some. You and I connected through the online project called Offline to On. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you came to be involved, and why that might be a benefit for e-commerce merchants?
John, transparently, we met through the Shopify channel, right?
I believe so. There are so many channels on there. That was one of the things. There was so when that thing first launched, there was so many things going on. I believe it was the Shopify channel. Yeah.
So I didn't realize that that was the channel from offline to on. It was a integration called Donut that recommended that we connect.
Okay. All right. I'll cut this out. That's fine.
Yep.
I just thought you were involved because when I got on there, just like everyone else, everyone was freaking the hell out, and there's just so much noise on there. And I was actually looking to amplify helper content, meaning, we really, Sumo Heavy really didn't have a lot to say in terms of the crisis and everything. I was looking to amplify content, and that was one of the things I found your thing and tweeted it out. So that's how that worked. All right. Okay, so we went to that, benefits to the retailer. Is there a, no, I already talked about customers. That's not a good question. Good response. We're at 1:30. All right, you know what? We're going to circle back to some entrepreneur questions if you don't mind, and then
Sure.
we'll round it out. You can talk as much as you want about this. All right, we'll talk a little bit about you, Ronny. Being an entrepreneur is demanding work, and our listeners, hopefully are. We'll start again. All right, we're going to talk about you, Ronny, a little bit. Being an entrepreneur is demanding work. What's a typical day like for you? And I'm not talking about in these crazy crisis times, but just managing your time as an entrepreneur and doing a lot of different things. How do you find a balance?
It's always a challenge. I'm not going to lie; it's always a work in progress. I have a toddler who's 3 and a 6-month-old daughter. Um, so being a parent and doing this whole thing is never easy. Um, the actual piece of sanity for me, and this has been a struggle in these COVID times, is actually my commute. So I live in the suburbs and I commute probably an hour in and an hour out, and that's my decompression time really. Where I love making phone calls or listening to podcasts or listening to audiobooks. Um, I have my rounds of phone calls, advisors that I would make in the morning, and then kind of switch off and go through my cycles, and that keeps me sane. I'm able to decompress, listen to my audiobooks, have my hit list of podcasts I want to catch up on. And it's my time to decompress. It's almost, it's a self-meditating. Sometimes there's frustrating days of sitting in traffic, but I love the ability to just, and now being out of that, I actually miss the commute.
I've heard that from a lot of people. They say they miss their commute, and I've noticed talking to other podcasts that all their listens are down by at least 20% because that's when it's podcast time. I know
Right.
I have the same thing too, where I had my morning rituals of going to the gym and doing all this stuff, and now I'm behind on all my podcasts. So,
Yep. So, get gym, if I could get there twice a week, that would be fantastic. They always say you could do, there's 3 things. There's your work, yourself, and your family, and you can only do 2 of them at once really well. So right now I would say my family and my work are my priority, which means that I'm putting, let's say, my physical health, maybe not going to the gym as often as I would like to, on the side for right now. But I try to cut out at least 30 minutes of time to spend time with my son every evening. That's um, when I get home. Amazing. And I think that that's been a huge benefit of COVID is that I'm able to, while I'm losing my decompression time, I'm able to, at 5:30 cut out and spend time with the kid. And I love that.
awesome. Kids are awesome, except when they grow up and they get a little crazy. So let's talk about the company. What do you got? What do you guys got on the shelf looking forward for Shopping Gives? Anything that we should know about?
Yeah. I mean, we have incredible integrations and partners coming out. As I mentioned, we're working on some advanced integrations. We have some more CMS integrations to make it simpler and more automated, similar to Shopify, coming out here in the future. We have some other new features that I don't want to expose yet, but I promise I'll let you know once they're ready, that are going to enhance the offering of what we do. And we're listening to our customers and responding. We love getting customer feedback and responding with features that they're asking for. So making it more integrated and dynamic throughout their operations is a big focus of ours. So building out more stuff on that.
So let me ask you one other entrepreneurship question. What's the best advice you can give an entrepreneur right now? Someone who's struggling to move their idea forward. And I'd like to say this question actually might become a little bit more important now that the world has paused and a lot of people are using this as an opportunity. What's the one piece of advice you'd give them right now?
The one piece of advice I would say, MVP, which I'm sure you hear all the time. Don't let analysis paralysis crush you, and don't let great get in the way of good. Get to market, validate fast. That was definitely something that we learned early on in our first version of Shopping Gives. I'm very particular, as most CEOs are, in terms of outcomes and user experience. And you could always improve, but get user feedback fast and early. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's always an opportunity to innovate. You don't have to invent something. If you are an entrepreneur, you could find, there's a lot of data out there, and finding an area of opportunity and branding it and telling a better story around it than what exists today.
Great advice. And what would you do if you weren't doing this?
What would I do if I wasn't doing this? What would I do? That's a great question.
I love asking people this question because it makes you look outside of yourself and makes you stop everything and go, if this all went away, what would it be?
If economic outcomes were not a concern, I would be traveling more. I would be doing more woodworking. It's a hobby that I'm a novice at, but I would be doing more woodworking. And I would also be, I have a green thumb a little bit. And so I have some, one day I'm going to launch a coffee grounds business. I have groundsforyourgreens.com, where I'm going to take, recycled grounds and compost them into different acidity levels for different plants.
That sounds really awesome, actually. I'd love to learn more about that. That's something I'm really into myself. That's really cool. All right. One final question. What's the last thing you bought online?
I actually bought the Yeti Blue mic for my at-home setup. So what you're using right now.
We had a nerd conversation before we started recording about podcast gear, and it turns out we have the same microphone. So, all right, great. And Ronny, this is your turn. This is time for your shameless plug. Anything you want to plug, any information you want to give out, floor is yours.
Awesome. Welcome you guys to the giving economy. Any retailer or brand who's looking to create impact and connect with their customers in a more authentic way, visit shoppinggives.com, shoppinggives.com. You can find us on all the social channels at Shopping Gives, and you can find me personally on Twitter at RDSage, RDSAGE. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronny. Thanks for being on the show. Stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll get through all this.
Yes, sir.
We'll follow up with you on a later time, and I really want to hear about the coffee grounds thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about Shopping Gives, just go to Shopping Gives. What is it, shoppinggives.com?
Yes, sir.
shoppinggives.com. And if you want to learn more about Sumo Heavy, check us out on our social media at Sumo Heavy everywhere, or on our website, sumoheavy.com. We'll see you next time in the ring. Thanks, Ronny. That was great.
Of course.
That was awesome. Actually, this will come out next. Well, I think we're going to publish this one next week because it's more timely than some of the other ones we have in the can. So if you have a good headshot that you could email us.
Yep.
For the social media. And that's all I need from you.
You got it. Just copy this here, send you this headshot, include Brittany and you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, John. Stay
safe.
Thanks,
Ronny. Talk soon.
Bye-bye now.